Alright, hello, this is my first video on the channel. Today we're going to be reading Diary of the Wimpy Kid, a fanfiction, not my Rodrick. Okay, let's begin. By the way, this is not mine. I'm going to leave the original thing in the description down below. Okay, let's begin. Wednesday. I know I complained a lot about how hard middle school it was. But high school is even worse. So much, in fact, that I haven't actually written in this thing for what feels like years, because of how overworked I've been. Well, that and the fact that nothing's been really going on since the Montpierres got arrested by Interpol and Albert Sandy left town without saying a word. Basically, I've been hanging out with Rowley and Holly, and apart from the excessive amounts of homework we've been getting, everything's fine. At least it was until now. I forgot to mention this earlier, but Rodrick somehow graduated from high school. I thought that for sure that he was going to end up at the local community college, but he managed to surprise all of us. I'm taking a gap year. I was pretty shocked that Rodrick planned on spending an entire year volunteering and working. But then he told us that he wanted to see if his band could make it big within the next year. And that he only planned on going to college if his initial plan fell through. To put it lightly, Mom and Dad weren't impressed with Rodrick's plan, resulting in a huge argument, and in the end, Rodrick packed his drums and went to crash at Bill's place. I haven't seen him since, and I was not expecting him to return so soon. Well, hello, dear brother. To be honest, I wasn't expecting Rodrick to change his appearance either. He had grown his hair out, and he was a lot thinner than the last time I'd seen him. I guess he hadn't bothered with eating or getting haircuts, but since he was so preoccupied with his band, but it was still very strange. The only other thing I could gather from Rodrick's time away is that he either crashed or broke his van because he was very intent on begging Mom for the money so he could buy another one. So could I get some money to buy a new van? Eventually, Mom reminded Rodrick that since he took a gap year, he had more than enough time to get a job. Rodrick then went down to the basement, where I thought he was going to stay for the rest of the day. Sadly, that wasn't the case. Usually, Rodrick only comes into my room so that he could screw with me, but this time, he was just standing right behind me as I scrolled through social media. He was so quiet that I didn't realize he was there until he opened his mouth. Whoa, is that stuff real? In case you're wondering, I was looking at a photo of a girl dressed as one of the villains from the new Twisted Wizard game. I remember Rodrick saying that cute girls only did this to get tons of likes from losers like me. So who knows why he was suddenly interested in all of this stuff. Although Rodrick left me alone for the rest of the night, his behavior got even weirder. It all started this morning when I heard a knock at the door. I guess Rodrick never told Bill where he'd gone, because he came to our house to look for him. Morning. After Rodrick emerged from the basement, I left him to work things out with Bill. Unfortunately, this resulted in a huge argument. Bill, I'm an inexperienced drummer and I can't even beat rock band. How do you expect me to continue like this? No, seriously, I can't do this anymore. Rock and roll is so last year. I'd rather start a boy band or something. Rod, what happened to you? I thought we'd keep doing this for the rest of our lives. You used to be my friend. Bill took off as soon as he heard muttering something about the heart and soul of Loaded Diaper had died. I couldn't believe I just witnessed Rodrick give up playing the drums and Loaded Diaper in favor of starting, and he gave up the drum. Sorry, I'm very new to this. I couldn't believe I had just witnessed Rodrick give up playing the drums and Loaded Diaper in favor of starting a boy band. In fact, I wasn't actually sure if I'd hallucinated the whole thing until I came home for school. Boy band tryouts downstairs. In case I didn't see Rodrick for the rest of the day, as he was in the basement judging the auditions. This meant I had to spend hours listening to raspy-voiced idiots singing awful covers of already terrible pop songs. Tell me, I'm not reading that. On the plus side, I think I found something worse than listening to loaded diaper practice. It was almost midnight by the time Rodrick picked out his members. Though what I could tell that they weren't actually exactly prime boy band material. I can't picture too many girls getting excited over Mr. Nerd, Christopher Ziegel, and Eric Holbert. But maybe Rodrick's trying to find a new niche. Either that, or he's so stupid he doesn't understand how boy bands work. Given everything else he's done lately, I suspect the latter. Friday. I barely got any sleep yesterday because Rodrick and his bandmates spent several hours trying to write a song before Dad finally kicked them out of the house at 2 a.m. As a result, I forgot to tell Rowley and Holly about Rodrick, and I was in for a nasty surprise at lunch. Did you hear that there's going to be a new boy band? Did you hear that there's going to be a live performance in the cafeteria? I crossed my fingers and prayed that Rodrick and his new band wouldn't waltz into the middle of the cafeteria. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. What's up, kids? Are you ready to rumble? Rodrick and his goons then turned on to music, danced around, though to be honest, their idea of dancing was pretty pathetic. Yo, 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 check, 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 check. Honestly, the whole thing was really boring, and I eagerly anticipated a teacher telling Rodrick and his friends to leave. However, the performance was mercifully cut short after a guy got on stage and pans to Rodrick. Hey! Rodrick tried to chase the guy, but the teachers had learned about his plan, and it was all over for him. Rodrick and his goons were then escorted out of the cafeteria by a bunch of teachers. I'm not quite sure what happened next, but I'm pretty sure all four of them got permanently banned from the school's premises. And they also ended up on the evening's news. No, seriously, can you imagine these guys showing up at your high school? I know, right? We've received word that one of those guys is 32. Yes, 32 years old. Rodrick always wanted to make it big on TV, but he didn't think this is quite what he envisioned. Saturday. I spent all morning trying to find out why Rodrick changed so much during his time anyway. Oh wait, I started off by looking in his room, but I didn't find anything of a note in there, well apart from a couple Playboys. I then realized that Bill probably knew what happened to Rodrick since they'd been living together for the past few months. I decided to see if I could call Bill, but I ran into Mom first. As it turns out, Mom won 2 tickets to the first annual Plainview Drag Night in a radio show giveaway, and she wanted me and Dad to have them. I told her that I wasn't interested in watching a bunch of fat guys in muscle cars revving their engines and driving in straight lines, but she said that this was a perfect opportunity for some father-son bonding. Plus, she made it absolutely clear that Rodrick would not be allowed to go if he showed up, as he was still grounded from yesterday. He's older than 18. Why is he still living with them? In the end, I couldn't find Bill's phone number, and I went over to Holly's to spend the rest of the day. Had I known that what I'd see at the drag race, I would have probably stayed there all night. I should have gotten suspicious the moment I realized that the drag race took place indoors. I wondered if they were using electric cars until I discovered that drag night had nothing to do with drag racing. So as it turned out, this drag night was basically a competition for cross-dressers, and that wasn't even the worst part. And here's our 4th contender for the night, Greg Heffley. I'm not sure if Uncle Gary is the announcer, Rodrick competing as a drag queen, or a mix of both. But Dad decided to leave halfway through the qualifying round. To put it lightly, he was not impressed with the drag night. That bastard is gonna get hit when I catch him. I wasn't quite sure if Dad was talking about Rodrick or Uncle Gary, but I made sure to hide the wig I stole a while back. Not knowing Dad's opinion of cross-dressers, I think it's best if he never finds out about that. Rodrick ended up making the news again. Shocking victory at drag night. I'm not reading all that. Guess who decided to show up today? As soon as Rodrick entered the house, he was told that he was grounded for 2 weeks for breaking into the school. But then Mom and Dad got into an argument about whether he should be punished for taking part in the drag queen competition. I can't have my son tarnishing my family name in public.
Frank, he's a legal adult. Surely he should have some freedom.
Honestly, I'm not sure who to agree with on the first hand. But I wouldn't trust Rodrick with anything. But on the other, he's far from the only idiot in the Heffley family. Mom and Dad's argument started to drag on, so I invited Rowley and Holly to hang out at the mall. I thought that I'd get a break from Rodrick's antics, but I was very wrong. Psst, psst. I asked Rodrick how he managed to sneak out of the house, and he said Mom and Dad were so busy arguing that they didn't notice him leaving. I told him to leave us alone and look at something himself, but he had other ideas. Once I get a new van, we can go to to Player Expo again. Who's in? I never thought Rodrick would nail the annoying little brother stereotype so well. He did, but he did. In fact, I'm actually glad Manny keeps to himself, as I don't know how I deal with two of these new Rodricks. It didn't help, but that he seemed to be making up stuff like us going to Player Expo, the video game this video game convention in Indianapolis. I'm very bad at names. I'm pretty sure Rodrick's never been out of the state alone, and I can't see him going to anything remotely video game related. We all started to grow tired of Rodrick pretty quickly, and I suggested we go home. But then Holly came up with an idea to get rid of him. Hey Rodrick, sorry.
Hey Rodrick, have you seen these shirts? I think they look good on you.
The shirts in question were pretty revolting, but Rodrick agreed to try them on. And the last I saw of him, sadly, and that was the last I saw of him. Sadly, it didn't cause him from causing trouble. Stop causing him. Apparently, Rodrick liked those awful shirts enough, and that he decided to buy them. He didn't bring any money, so he walked out of the store without paying. Ring! Hey. The last I saw of Rodrick was him getting yelled at by the guy in the store and a mall cop. If he does get arrested for shoplifting, at least he'll get a break for him. At least I'll get a break from him. Sorry. After we got rid of Rodrick, I asked Rowley and Holly for their opinions of him. Believe it or not, they actually made me realize something.
Honestly,
Sorry. I hate this voice.
Honestly, I'm not even sure if he's the same guy unless he found a way to make his hair grow that fast in 2 months.
Why is he trying to look like the big brother from the Diaper Hands movie? Sorry, that's the best I could do of Rowley. I've done too many voices. And that's how I ended up sitting down to watch the Diaper Hands movie for the 3rd time. It seemed to drag along even more this time, but at least I was able to confirm my newfound suspicions that the idiot who followed us around the mall was not Rodrick, but rather Diaper Hands' older brother. It almost made me feel bad for Diaper Hands, until I remembered him freaking out over the diaper. I guess apples don't fall far from the tree. Anyways, I only watched about half of the Diaper Hands movie before switching it off, as it was that bad. But I probably should have switched the TV to something else, as Manny ended up watching rest of the movie. If he's not giving up his phone, I'm not giving up mine. And to make matters worse, the movie seemed to have left Manny feeling inspired, because then he decided to draw one of the most disgusting scenes. At this point, I'd rather have Manny and watch Manny's horror movies instead of this. I remember Rodrick doing a science fair project on how movies affect people's minds, and after seeing this, I know exactly how they work. On the other hand, I still know very little about where Diaper Hen's older brother came from, and what he did to Rodrick, or why he's still here. All that I can gather is that Preston Mudd is probably behind all this. Likely because he's mad at me for preventing Diaper Hands, the movie, from winning every award at the Oscars or something. I still think the movie would have failed without my interference, but some people don't know when to give up. I just hope he doesn't replace my entire family with the Hands family. Monday, we've got a week off, and I planned on tracking down Preston to interrogate him today. Unfortunately, I woke up to a strange blonde woman staring at me. What?
Have you heard of the Hands family great road trip?
It took me a moment to realize it, but now I was staring right at the Diaper Hen's mother. I asked her how I got into the house and what she did to Mom, but she just summoned Mr. Diaper Hands to carry me outside. Mr. Hands then dumped me in the back of a minivan, and which he and Mrs. Hands then started loading with all kinds of junk. And to make sure I didn't run off, they also stuck Manny and not Rodrick back there to watch me. I was a little surprised that Manny hadn't been replaced, but I guess it makes sense since he seems to enjoy watching me suffer. Either that, or he wants me to experience the Diaper Hands movie for real. Mr. and Mrs. Hands ended up spending an eternity loading the van and hitching up a boat. Once they were done, Mrs. Hands got behind the wheel and roared off. At this point, I did the only thing I think I could have.
The Diaper Hands family is kidnapping me. Call the police.
Oh, sorry. Why is this happening? Oh, sorry. I'm not quite sure if Rowley heard me, but I know Mr. Hands did, because he told me that I'd be dealt with by Mrs. Hands if I tried to interfere with the road trip. And that was basically it for the next hour or so. Miss Hands raced like a maniac until we were out of plain view, at which point Mr. Hands took the wheel. And somehow it was even worse after that. You know, Rowley and his mom like to sing 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall during car trips. Well, the Hands family has a similar tradition, only even more annoying. Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really want, so tell me what you want, what you really want. That was the first time I'd seen a family sing-along made up entirely out of outdated pop songs, and I hope it's the last. Honestly, I wouldn't mind going deaf if I had never have to listen to that stuff again. Let me just get a drink of water quickly. Alright, I'm back. Sorry, you should drink water, you know? It's the best thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world. After what felt like a million years, Mr. Hands pulled off the highway, and I finally thought I'd get a chance to escape. But the Hands seemed to have anticipated this, as they didn't even bother stopping the van. Instead, they sent Not-So Rodrick shopping and drove in circles to make sure I couldn't get out. I was pretty worn out from being the subject of Mrs. Hands' crazy driving and horrible sing-along, but I still thought about jumping out of the van while it was moving. Unfortunately, Miss Hands was watching me like a hawk and the whole time, which caused me to chicken out. After Not Rodrick returned, the van took off again, and I was subject to another round of the Hands singing awful pop song from 20 years ago. I was only spared when the van finally pulled into a parking lot of a motel. This is just turning into the long haul movie. As it turned out, not all the stuff not Rodrick brought was either unprepared or microwavable, and none of it was edible. Uh, Not that it mattered, since I wouldn't eat anything the hands gave to me. The hands immediately went to bed without eating, which I found odd since none of them had eaten all day. I was starving, and I ended up eating some hard pasta and cinnamon because that was all I could find to eat. At this point, I think I'd officially lost my mind. Tuesday. I barely got any sleep last night, partially because I found it impossible to sleep in the same room as the people who'd abducted me, but mainly because of my attempt at sneaking out.
Bobby's sneaking away.
I guess it was hardly surprising as that many helping the hands, and since he's one of the people who'd openly betrayed their friends and family if it involves themselves getting spared. I'd really wish he'd kept his mouth shut though, as I had to spend the rest of the night with Mr. and Mrs. Hand staring over me like vultures. It only got worse when the Hand decided to get a country fair, and they dragged me around like on a dog leash. I swear this is the most embarrassed I've ever been in my life. I would have tried to run off again, but since Mr. Hand tied the leash around my neck, I decided to not risk it. Eventually, Mrs. Hands and not Rodrick dragged me back to the van, where I found that Manny somehow won a pig. I remember in diaper hands doing the same thing in the movie, but I wondered if this was planned or simply a regular event at the fair. Speaking of which, I remember Preston having a pig in the house last summer, which made me wonder if the scene was based on his own experience. If there's one good thing about being that pig, it's that it played a key role in helping me escape the Hans family's awful road trip. I never thought it would end this violently, but at least I got off in the end. I can't quite remember what happened after that, but I do know that I managed to launch the pig into Mr. Hand's lap, where it went completely ballistic. Mr. Hand attempted to fend off the pig, but he ended losing the control of the van and crashing it into a guardrail. It must have rolled at least 6 times before landing upside down in a ditch. It's a good thing that all the Hans family was still unconscious when I escaped, as who knows what would have happened if they weren't. On the other hand, I was stuck on a highway in the middle of the road with no way home, so I did the only thing I could think of. Ultimately, hitchhiking proved fruitless, and I got bored pretty quickly, so I ended up walking down the highway until I came across a gruesome sight. That's sad. Not Rodrick must have been ejected from the van because I found parts of his body scattered all over the highway. It wasn't so bad until I noticed the wires protruding out of his limbs. Yes, the idiot who claimed to be Rodrick was actually a robot. I wondered who could have done such a thing when I noticed an identical van to the Hands pulling off the side of the road. I thought the driver might have seen my hitchhiking sign, but once he got out of the van, it became obvious he wasn't going to help me. "You're never going to let me win, are you, Greg Heffley?" I asked Preston what he was doing, and his reply was exactly what I thought he'd expected. "Of course you'd had to ruin everything you told. That's why can't you leave Diaper Hands the movie alone?" "Well, actually, if you hadn't used fake accounts to market the movie and had me kidnapped, I wouldn't hold issue. Listen up, you little bastard. The Diaper Hands movie will rise, and so will so will I. This movie proves that no matter that viral jokes are no laughing matter." Preston continued to yip and yap about the symbolism behind the Diaper Hands movie, until the passenger door of the van opened and someone else got out. And believe me, I was expecting to see this guy even less.
Oh no, my beautiful androids, what's happened to you?
Mr. Cabin started, what's it called? Mr. Kagan started babbling about how he'd reverse engineered the entire Hans family from some Alfredo dolls, and that I'd ruined his hard work by causing the crash. Preston told me I was gonna get it, but before I could find out what it was, help finally arrived. Honk. Before I could say anything, Bill opened the van's sliding door, pulled me into the back. I asked Rodrick, and I asked him how, and he said the other loaded diaper members found Rodrick, and he said that Rowley tipped him off about Preston's place. I guess my plan worked after all. Apparently, Roderick's bandmates had found him in Preston's basement, where he was being forced to package DVDs of Diaper Hands the movie. Seriously, why does everything Preston does have to be related with Diaper Hands? Anyways, Roderick said that the only reason he hadn't escaped sooner was because Preston planted Dennis Denard and Eric Glick in the room, and he'd been outnumbered by 2 to 1 during his stay. Roderick also told me how he ended up in Preston's basement in the first place. He'd gone grocery shopping with Preston, and when Preston snuck up on him with a tranquilizer gun. I told Roderick what happened to Mom and Dad, but he never saw them in the basement. It turned out Preston or the Hands just tied them up and left them in Manny's room. While I now know what happened to Mom and Dad, I still hope Preston gets what he deserves for this. I mean, who knows what he could do if he remains free. What? Oh, sorry. It's been a few days since I escaped the clutches of the Hands. Saturday. It's been a few days since I escaped the clutches of the Hands, and I have to say that things are finally looking up again. For one thing, Preston got arrested and sent to a maximum security prison, and I don't think I'll have to deal with Diaper Hands movie anymore. What are you in for? Well, it all started when I made the Diaper Hands movie. In other news, Mom's been pretty torn up lately because Manny went missing. They never found him in the Hands wreck van, so I presume he escaped, though I'm not sure where he would have gone. Apart from that, everything's been going well. Sure, I've had a few nightmares about the Hands, but at least I can rest assured knowing that they've been destroyed. And the only other thing that happened is that Rodrick moved back in with us. I guess Mom and Dad were more willing to put up with him after not Roderick's antics, and to be honest, I could agree with them on that. I never thought I'd be happy listening to Rodrick drumming. I never thought I'd be happy to listen to Roderick practicing the drums, but after hearing Diaper Hands, Brothers boy band auditions, and the Hands family's awful sing-along, I'd happily listen to this about just about anything else. I'd also like to say I haven't told Roderick about all the stuff Diaper Hands' brother did under his name, but I've managed to withhold it so far. But I'm bracing myself because I know he'll learn about it sooner or later. Alright, that is Not My Roderick, and thank you for listening. I hope this was a good one. Like and subscribe. This is my first video, so I might be a little new to this stuff. Next week I'll have another video for you, and I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Bye.